United States of America, to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Ryan, I have a question. I didn't know Kyle wasn't going to be here tonight, so it's late Friday evening. So what we do about the oath law?
Bob and Brian actually went and met with Kyle and took their oaths on Friday.
Okay. I didn't know he wasn't going to be here.
I got a note here.
Brenda, can we have roll call?
Atkins. Here. Bothwell.
Yes.
Reedy.
Here.
Royals.
Here.
Cottle.
Here.
House.
Here.
Hiley.
Here.
Hicks.
Here.
Hunt.
Here.
Knuckles.
Here.
Todd.
Here.
Wright.
Here.
Maynard.
Here.
And Rex, could I introduce,
Yeah, go ahead.
Mr. Bob Hiley is the commissioner's new citizen member representative or appointee. And Brian Hunt is the Upland Town Board, appointee.
Okay, at this time, it's election time. First, we'll go with the president. Do we have any nominations?
I'll nominate Chuck Reed.
I'll nominate Dr. Robert Bothwell.
Any seconds on any of them?
I'll second Mr. Boswell. Second,
Two seconds. Do that right. Right, we got 282 seconds.
Say that we take a vote. And it's in a tie, we take it again.
Okay. Brenda?
Atkins.
To speak who I'm voting for.
We want to do first, Chuck was announced first, let's do Chuck.
Okay. Okay. Atkins.
So,
We'll vote
Chuck's,
on Chuck.
You want this?
no,
I think you're just taking a vote for Dr. Bothwell or Chuck.
I think they're gonna go with Chuck first and then.
Yeah, Chuck was brought up first. I thought we'd go with Chuck.
It says, current elected president shall preside over the election process. Process shall begin by hearing comments and discussion by commission members. Upon the end of the discussion, the president shall request nominations for the position of president, and nominations shall be heard. Upon completion, the president shall request a motion to close nominations. If only one member is nominated, election may comprise of a standard vote. However, if more than one individual has been nominated, each member shall choose one candidate by paper ballot. Any plan commission member receiving a majority of votes shall be elected president. In the instance of a tie vote, the current president shall continue as president until such tie can be broken.
So I'll make a motion, the nominations are closed.
that's recess, I guess, to get me back.
That sounds like she's ripping some up over there.
I'm getting to it. We're getting there.
I'll second Mr. Hunter.
We're trying to get 13.
Second.
Brenda, let's have a roll call on closing nomination right now.
Okay. Atkins,
Yes.
Bothwell, Reedy,
Yes.
Royals,
Yes.
Cottle,
Yes.
Cows,
Yes.
Hiley,
Yes.
Hicks,
Yes.
Hunt,
Yes.
Knuckles,
Yes.
Todd,
Yes.
Wright.
Yes.
I come from Blackford, so excuse me for my number.
Okay, Marcel, I got you.
And I don't know why it took me a couple of years before.
I didn't used to do them around either, so the pieces are all different sizes.
You need that, well, you got that, you can go around and collect them up.
Yes, I can do that. That I can do. My marine skills can do that. Just don't ask too much more after that. Yeah, we got it.
See them for the next. First name, I should take the best.
Yep.
I just threw one out.
Your ponytail.
Right here, right here.
Don't tell my wife I was touching him.
Here we go. Like George.
Take it down. Okay.
It says the outcome of each vote shall be stated by the president.
You ready? Brenda? Chuck? Chuck? Bob? Bob? Chuck? 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 Bob? And Bob.
8-5.
All right. You want to swap?
Yeah.
Or should I go around?
Yeah, we get
Take your name, please.
Take my name, what?
We've got the recording.
Okay, thank you. Okay, now we move on to selection of the vice president. So we open for nominations. Do we have any nominations for vice president? I'll nominate Bob.
I'll second that.
I nominate Rob Kels.
Do we have a second for Robert? I'll say. You got paper?
Yeah.
What, wait a minute, are there any other nominations?
I've been prepping.
Is there any other
There's
nominations?
only 11 there, hold on.
Then I'll close nominations for vice president. We'll go to a vote. So we got Bob, Boswell, and Robert.
There's 11, right?
Yeah, Bob and Robert.
I don't know.
Yes.
She said there's 11.
Yeah, before she finished.
I was trying.
Keep mine, don't tell.
It's just a plan, but they don't need it. I'm out.
All right, we got, I don't know, we might have a point of order. Bob Boswell does not want to accept the nomination.
I support. That's fair.
So where do we go? Where's my attorney? File him up.
If he's withdrawing and we only have one, then it's just a standard vote.
All right. So,
Did we close the nominations?
yes.
Yeah.
I did. I asked if there was any other nomination. Nobody spoke up, so I closed the nomination.
We want to reopen since we had somebody withdraw?
Can, we could, we. That's the pleasure of the council. We can open it back up. In light of, Bob not accepting the nomination, is there anybody else that would like to nominate somebody?
Nominate Tyson Knuckles.
Okay,
I'll second that.
so we got back to, Tyson being nominated second, Robert's been nominated second. Is there any other nominations for vice president? Seeing none, hearing none, nominations are closed. If you already filled out your paper, you need to change it, scratch it off thoroughly, and put in whatever you want,
I took your guys' paper.
or whichever your choice is.
This one is closed now. There you go.
So we've got Tyson or Robert.
Before I kick off on that other end.
All right, here we go. Rob. Tyson. Tyson. Robert. Tyson. Robert. Tyson. Robert. Robert. Tyson. Robert. Robert. And Tyson. That sounded pretty even to me. I'm not sure. What do we got?
7 for, Robert and 6 for Tyson.
Well, congratulations, sir. Yeah. Just wanna stay there. I'm stay there. You want to move? I can stay here. Okay. All right. Find the agenda here. Yeah, there we go. Okay, now we're gonna go to approval of the minutes. Yes, sir. Oh, we gotta get the executive session. That's right. So automatically, we got the president, vice president, Mr. Wright with the county council or county commissioners, and then the county.
Mr. Hills,
So it's four. So we're just looking for one.
you're voting on one at large. Generally, it's just a reaffirmation. If Mr. Cardell wishes to do it again.
So last year.
Yeah, Mr. Cardell is currently the at-large.
At large.
I'd like to defer if I could. I got elected as president of our council over there.
Congratulations, sir.
Busy, yeah. So I feel like, I don't want
Okay, so then we are looking for a nomination to be, somebody to step up to be our fifth member, right?
to be anybody, right?
It can be anybody. It's not like the APC where it has to be a non-elected official,
Like, no, I'd like to question that right there.
I think, right?
The way our bylaw said, there's no state law that says it has to be an elected official.
No, I meant,
And at this point, before we go any further, I'd like to make the suggestion that we make some changes in our bylaw. That is anybody can be appointed to this board instead of certain people.
I think,
Because what I have seen since I've been here for 7 years, say I got elected to the county right now, I'd walk on here and we have a major trouble. I know nothing about it. How can I sit on a board that I know nothing about? There's a lot been going on. And that's my opinion right now. I think we need to change that before we vote. And I'm asking, I make a motion that be changed, because if that person don't know what he's doing, how can he make a clear decision for all of us?
That's a very fair point.
And I've checked in that, and the 7 years I here and this last year, that's one thing I was looking in, I'm like, I ran into that, and I'm like, how can I ask this person when he don't know what's going on? So I'm making a motion before we vote, that we change our rules, that anybody can be on the board.
I believe, if I'm not mistaken, that is the way it is.
That's,
You might have misunderstood.
no, what I'm saying,
Anybody
Chuck,
on the
is,
executive.
I know what our rule says.
Mhm.
Our rule says it. I'm asking for a rule change in our rule, that anybody can be on that board.
That, I believe that's the way it says right now.
I think
It says it in our
Yeah.
thing. What I'm saying is, I'm making a motion to change our way our rules read in our book, that anybody could be on that board. I made the motion.
What does the state law say?
I can make that motion.
I can-
I don't think we can do that on.
Yeah, I'd like to hear what the state.
Yes, we can.
Let's hear,
And if we can,
let's hear what the state law says.
because the law,
So for the Area Plan Commission's rules of procedure, it states for the executive committee, your membership is the executive committee shall be comprised of 5 members of the Area Plan Commission, including the president, vice president, the county council member, and the county commissioner member, and 1 other elected from the remaining members who shall be elected annually at the first meeting of the year. The agricultural extension education member of the Area Plan Commission, which would be Mr. Todd, as surveyor for us, shall also serve as a non-voting advisory member to the executive committee.
yeah,
So that is our rules of procedure.
that's our rule. That's not state rule. That's our rule. And I'm asking our rule to be changed tonight. Bill, and I made a motion,
Do we
that we
have,
change them.
Do you want to hear
do
state
we
law?
have a second?
Let's hear the, whatever the law is. Let's
Okay.
state law.
So IC 36-7-4-408 powers executive committee. Each plan commission may establish an executive committee of not less than 3 nor more than 9 persons appointed by the commission from its membership. The establishment of the executive committee, the naming of its individual members, and the adoption of rules governing its operation require a 2/3 majority vote of the entire membership of the commission, and a majority of the executive committee may act in the name of the commission, but if there are any dissenting votes, a person voting in the minority may appeal the decision to the executive committee of the executive committee to the commission. So that's,
So Rex, I think what I hear you say is why couldn't it be any 5
Yeah.
sitting at this table instead of established council member and commissioner
Yeah.
being automatically on it?
Yes,
Or the vice president? I'm
because what I've seen in the past, and I've been here 7 years, say I'm a new council member, county council, I come on, there's problems. I have no clue. And then president has to call that person because that's part of the executive board. And to me, I'm asking now because I've been thinking all year long, and even for this year, that rule, and I have been asking around, where did we got to that point where it was done long a time ago when our rules and procedure, we put it in there. And tonight I'm asking them, before we vote, which make a change to that rules and procedure, to anybody can be on that board. It's not certain people automatically appointed on that board.
As an election process.
Yes, that's election project. Anybody can sit on that board.
I second that.
Okay.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? So point of order, you want basically all 5 people to be elected.
Anybody, yeah,
Rather
anybody.
than the floor setting.
You and the vice president would automatically be on the board. But anybody else,
You want the other 3 spots.
yeah, the other 3 spots to be anybody.
Okay, there's more.
I don't know in the middle of an election if that is the time to actually get into text amendments. The rules of procedure.
It seems an inappropriate.
I understand what you're saying, Rex. I don't.
I know what I'm saying, but I said before we elect, what we had, no, we made, I said, hold it there. I have a question and I'd like to make a motion. And I'll make my motion, and that's, can be done. Cause I have checked on that.
I think,
But
yeah,
the
I
second,
agree.
we need to take a roll call by rules.
So to get it straight, you're saying you want the president, vice president automatically on there. The other 3 members from
Anybody
any
on
of
the
the
board.
remaining members.
Yes,
If I might add a little bit of clarification to that. Back when Chuck was president, he appointed a committee to review our rules and procedure. I was part of that committee. And that process has happened. Mrs. Jones was part of the committee, if you'll recall, along with Mr. Mayor. And that has been completed. And one of the things that was in the change that we were recommending to be done was exactly what you're talking about now. So that would be coming back to you whenever we're able to get around to that point. I've got copies of this thing, been done for 7 months. But anyway, the work of the committee that you appointed, part of that was that the president and the vice president would be automatic, and the other 3 members would be elected at large. So that might help. Background, this isn't something just willy-nilly. It's been studied, and that would have been a recommendation that would have been coming back and should have been done prior to tonight. Wish that we'd been able to get to that. And there are other rules that
We're looking at.
for recommending as well. But anyway, just so you know that as of 6 or 7 months ago, the committee that was to establish changes, revisions, or to look at that, one of the revisions that they were recommending, that we would be recommending back to you, was, I think, what we've got clarified now, that it would be president, vice president, and 3 elected officials. So that's just to add a little more to that if we're going to do this at this time. And I think it might be a good idea to set aside the election until we have time to think about this.
It seems irregular to
And
be changing the rules of an election in the middle of an election.
so if we were.
I agree with that.
Well, I'd be leaning to that, but
You do have.
then who is the balance of our executive committee if we have issues that arise and we have a partial executive committee, right?
Board meeting.
Have to call a whole board meeting if there's a legal or
Yeah, we'd have. to call-
personnel or something like that.
Yeah, we would.
because that could complicate.
But we do have a motion on the floor right now.
Right,
So
well,
before
the
we
motion is basically,
to redo.
are we going to? You making a motion to change the way we elect?
Yeah,
Then he had a second from Randy.
A second from that.
Randy, so we gotta move on to this.
Unless you're gonna withdraw,
No, I'm not gonna redraw.
and it's a vote.
So then, we are voting yes or no. Yes, we want to change the way we elect
The executive board
the
is,
executive board to president, vice president automatic, and then an election of 3 other members to complete the board.
Chuck, do you foresee some need for the executive board to be intact here in the immediate?
I do not, well, I'm not seeing a head nod over there.
So we
No,
have,
we don't.
we have a personnel issue that,
We got a personnel issue, but I'll tell you, past president, I talked to the lawyer. The lawyer told me, I told Ryan what to do, and he's not followed orders. I told him what the lawyer told me twice. And that's our lawyer who's representing.
that's exactly.
I went to his office personally.
And why would that personnel issue fall under the jurisdiction of the executive council or committee versus the entire APC?
Well,
It could be under executive session. It could be. It cannot be held. Personnel matters are not held here in an open meeting.
Correct.
So yes,
Absolutely.
generally your executive session, the people, they look at the situation, analyze it, and then if they feel need to bring everybody in, especially if there's being action taken, then yes.
I think what he's trying to ask is it, even though there might be an issue, is it necessary to have the executive meeting, or can we just do it, the executive board, or can we just do it in an executive meeting? So I would say,
The difference between an executive session and an executive committee meeting, in an executive session, you cannot take any official action. It has to be brought to the public board, as opposed to an executive committee in which action can be taken for the commission. And what we're talking about here is personnel,
Which you really don't
Take-
necessarily want to bring in the public.
taken in the commission without being brought to, yeah, basically the group as a whole.
Because personnel matters should be kept.
But first of all, what I found out of being president and what I found from our lawyer, he said we're independent on our own. And I told him to find out where we fall under the county guidelines in their books. And he can't find nothing yet, because he has not answered me.
I think,
And I had emailed him twice, and he said, I hadn't found nothing. I said, find an IC code or legal document.
I think it would
Until
be,
that is proven, I've read the handbook. And that's not to say,
just to speed us along here, since we don't want to delve too much into a personnel issue in public. That's,
no,
well,
I understand what you're getting, but
we still have a motion on the floor. So we should take.
I know, we just move on to our vote.
well, we haven't closed discussion yet, have we?
Well, I mean, it was nominated in a second, so really we should.
Go ahead and vote.
Yeah, we should vote.
Okay.
Unless you guys.
You can discuss whether or not you want to make the rule changes, but we shouldn't delve into.
Yeah, we shouldn't delve too far into that.
If
If we still want to discuss the motion on the floor, that's fine, but I mean, we've
Other
had
side
it in a
items,
second.
not.
Yeah,
Well, I think what I have to say is in reference to the executive, committee selection. I'm not, comfortable with the executive council or whatever we're gonna call it, having the authority to make decisions of that nature without it being brought to the entire base of the APC.
That's state law.
It's state law to put in place for things that would be be under a timely manner, that could not wait till the next meeting.
And
it's limited to a certain amount of things that they can talk about. It's not everything.
who makes that decision as to whether it's a timely manner or not?
That would be a decision by the president or 2 members of the committee. To follow that, it calls for 48 hours in advance of the meeting. If there is one dissenting vote within that committee, then it goes to the commission as a whole. So it only takes one no vote to bring it to the commission.
Okay.
Okay, so we still have a motion and a second.
Yep.
So we are voting yes to change the rule
Yes.
and no to leave it as is. Got that? Yes, we are going to change the rules tonight. No, we do not want to change the rules tonight, and then maybe down the road, we'll look at the whole package as a whole or line item.
Are you gonna get that as a text amendment?
Well, I guess we would have to if we're changing
Yeah.
it. So we need to,
My other question would be, again, if we're going to make a text amendment to the ordinance,
well, that probably needs to go to all the cities and towns.
this body can put forth a recommendation that has to go in front of the legislative body for approval.
Change the makeup of the executive committee.
So I concur with Mr. Broyles that if changes are desired, then that's something that's perfectly doable through the correct process. But it's not something that's doable in the middle of an election. The timing is inappropriate, and the election tonight should be based on the rules as they exist. And if people want to change the rules, then sure, you can go through the process and
We are going through the process
for the
right now,
for the next election.
because I said, before we vote, I make a motion. And
Well, we
that's for
heard
the,
that.
and that's for the process,
We're
but we didn't vote it.
we're already in the election process.
Yeah, but I asked to make a change and wait election is done, and
And
you're allowed to do that. I am allowed to do that.
I'm not saying that you're not,
I am allowed to do that, and I did it within second. I'm asking our president now, take his vote that I asked him to do.
I think that asked and
If we were to defer the election of the executive committee.
Right.
If we were to defer that to our next meeting, then we can act on what we're talking about here, because it wouldn't be in the middle of an election. So if, if the people who have made the motion that is on the floor at this point, if they were to defer that and ask instead that the election for the executive committee take place at our next regularly scheduled meeting, and we were to approve that, then you can talk about making your change now, if you want to talk about that. And we're not going to get away from it. We've got some people who are pretty adamant about where we are. So why don't we, Mr. Maynard, Mr. Atkins, if you guys would change your,
Dr. Bothwell, I would maybe add one more thing if you don't mind, and that is that we say that the existing executive committee stay in place until that election occurs. Because
That's
if there
usually
is,
the way it is. If this like president, if you don't get enough votes, the same president stays in till you have another election.
so if we basically do not vote tonight, then
We still have to vote on one person to fill the executive board as it sits currently. Our next meeting would be to change the rules, and then we'd re-elect based upon those rules.
And unless Mr. Caudill is willing to say.
I'm willing to stay until we can sort this out next month. That's not a problem.
they'll leave the old members, which would be Rex and Tyson, and the two county commissioner representatives. Jackson.
There you go.
do you mind that?
no, I think.
And then,
Okay.
then if we decide we need to get,
Way to go.
if you have rules and procedure stuff, then we need to get it to the office so it can be distributed, so we can review it before the next meeting if we want to look at changes. And then we will have to go through changes.
Just the process though, just to clarify. A change takes how,
Well, yeah,
if we change the rules, it would take how long to actually go into effect?
If we're doing a text amendment
Which
to
we
the
will be.
ordinance,
Yes.
we are putting forth a recommendation to the legislative bodies to get approval. Generally, once I get approval from commissioners, I've got 30 days to get it to the council.
So we're talking,
That's our normal,
next meeting is February,
March meeting.
yeah, March, April.
and it's this, I'm trying to think. It is state code. It's in rules of procedure. I don't know if it's in the ordinance. I'll have to look. Executive session's in here. I don't know if executive committee is. If committee is in rules and not the ordinance, the rules of procedure, you guys can change without going anywhere else.
That's what it is.
Yeah.
Our rules of procedure that can be taken care of. I know it's there because I'm the one that put everything in place to begin with.
That's why I wasn't sure if it was in both. That's what I was saying.
Mr. Breeden,
Yes, sir.
just a point of clarification. So is it the members that would stay until the rules can be changed? Or is it the positions that would stay? Because we just did have an election of officers.
Right.
We just did have an election of officers. We
Right.
have a new
Change.
president. That's the old rules,
Mhm.
that the incoming president would immediately go on to
Right,
that board, correct?
right.
I'm just
Yeah.
asking the question, just asking the question.
This rule does say the president.
And vice.
And vice president, it doesn't say who it is, it's just the position.
Yeah. But right now, if you read the rules, and Ryan will tell you, we could have up to 9 people onto that board.
Yeah, but that would have to be a change also.
Yeah.
So that's, I just, point of order, just to kind of take a look at that, and I think it's up for discussion, I guess, is what I just wanted to bring up.
If we stay the way we are, yeah, them two would be on it, and then the rest of us.
Then the old one would stay.
Yeah.
Which would be Jerry and the two county commissioners rep. Okay, so if we do that with intent to update or have at least the opportunity to review and update the rules and procedures in the very near future. If you're agreeing to that, would you like to withdraw your motion?
I'll draw a motion if we're gonna do that.
All right, so we're gonna leave in place what's there. Just walk out by names, persons,
So it's
you,
me,
me, you.
two commissioner appointees and
Yep.
Jerry. Okay, currently.
Okay, perfect. All right. Do we need APC appointment also, don't we? Or is that just a carryover?
Again, I think it's just a reaffirm.
Reaffirm
Oh,
it.
yeah.
And Jerry agreed to, oh, are you there as the? appointee?
They're talking to.
Now we're going to BZA.
PCA now.
PCA, sorry.
We have to appoint a non-elected person, right? And that's the
Right
one
now
that's
we've got
currently there
You got me?
was
Rex.
Rex.
Incorporated, Randy unincorporated.
So we got the two. And if they're willing to stay, we could leave that, or
Yeah, I'll stay.
you'd like to stay? BZA, right? Appointment. You want to stay there
On the BZA,
on the
On
BZA?
BZA.
as a-
Because it's gotta be a
APC.
non-elected official, and me and you are the non-elected official.
sure.
Leave that. Then we have, well, Jerry, no, you're elected. Well, it would be Bob,
Bob would
be the only other potential person.
Is that done every year? At election time?
I think it's
We've never done that before.
reaffirmed, just reaffirmed. Generally, it's not just,
I don't know if that's.
I don't remember.
I don't never been reaffirmed. I never been.
Yeah, I just,
We got some things.
Usually, I never, every year,
Well, if you guys are
I'm
willing
on
to
Medicare,
continue on,
and
then we'll just stay there.
that's what I'm saying, if you're still willing, just make sure you're still willing.
I don't know what the rule is. That's the way it was always with me.
All right, so do we have that? So the motion was withdrawn.
Yeah.
I do have a copy of the BZA rules. That talks about election of officers and but it doesn't, that's of the people who are on the BZA. I'm not finding so far unless Ryan, you know something that says how.
No, it's just that we APC .2 citizens, non-elected officials, down to the board. And since I've been here for 7 years, there's been no reference, because when I got it, is because of a person who had it in Jonesboro. She become a council member. And she was upset. She couldn't stay, but we had to firm her. It had to be a citizen. And I was only citizen at that time on the board.
It's never.
And when I say reaffirm, I'm just saying still willing to serve.
Okay.
Nothing. I don't have a vote.
All right, so we can move on. Okay. Approval of the minutes. So we got several different minutes to approve here. I think we ought to go one by one, since there may or may not be questions within each one. So we're going all the way back to October the 3rd. They did hand out some minutes at the beginning of the thing, or they've been in past packets. So if we could look over it, or if anybody has any questions related to October the 3rd's minutes. Been 2 months since I've read them.
I'd be a move to approve the October minutes.
Second that.
I can remember.
Tyson made the motion, Rex second, to approve the minutes as presented for October 3rd. Call the roll.
Atkins,
Yes.
Boswell,
No.
Reedy,
Yes.
Broyles.
Yep.
Cottle,
Yes.
Cows,
Yes.
Wiley,
I have to recuse. I was not at that meeting.
Hicks,
Yes.
Hunt,
I have to recuse, but also please.
Knuckles,
Yes.
Todd,
Yes.
Wright,
No,
Maynard.
Yeah,
You should probably mark me as a recusal too, because I wasn't at that meeting.
Okay.
Were you a member at the time?
Not quite.
Last month was your first meeting, right? Was that last month your first?
No, I don't know if we have enough there.
Oh.
Yeah, we have
All right.
2 minutes and 3 abstentions.
Okay. So now we move on to the minutes of November the 7th. Do we have any questions, concerns, or corrections?
Yeah, in the section about initiation of litigation,
Do you know what part number that is?
10.
Under 10,
So
under
there-
litigation, okay?
There was a whole lot of conversation that we had back and forth. And there should be comment about me and Mr. Bothwell accepting my amendment to include any conflicts of interest or anything like that in our investigation. And it's not in there, so just want to make sure that gets noted.
I'm sorry, what, Ralph?
There should be a comment, at least in there, about the amendment I made to his motion to include in our investigation any conflicts of interest on our side also in that. And I don't see it. It's
10.1.2.3.
Yep, I'm seeing that right now.
What was the number?
10, 1, 2, 3.
I don't have it.
Yeah, I didn't see. As it says, have third parties review the ordinance. Whether or not.
And
there's
you may not
substantial
have all
legal reason
You may not have all the minutes.
to consider litigation,
10.1.
but in the middle of that was my,
1, 2, 3.
Yeah, I got it in here that our house is clean and.
yeah, was that in there somewhere?
I don't have it.
he asked,
But I think the one I was looking at out today may not have had it in it.
Is it in there?
The one that came out.
Or is it in this one?
It went.
That's why I missed it.
10.1.
Okay.
You are voting anyway. No, this one you are voting. This one.
So it is in there,
Not my copy.
not.
Yeah.
I don't think,
The
that-
official.
I don't think the one that came around this evening had it.
I don't.
Because mine is part of the packet that came out.
Mine
Was
is,
the December meeting.
mine is.
Minutes in a packet.
If you got the packet for the December 5th meeting, it has that in there.
Can you go ahead and read that?
It says here 10.1.2.3. Mr. Scott Cal stated that he would be willing to support the motion, given that internal review is also done, noting that we are clean in the process as far as any conflicts and things like that. Mr. Boswell noted that he would add that motion. Mr. Boswell amended his motion.
Okay, well, with that, then,
It is.
I'm good.
Okay. Yeah,
I just didn't see it.
you see it there.
I didn't see it.
I think what happened, we sent out, I did the minutes, the initial minutes that we sent out with packets. I think what you've got is what we printed off the computer. It might have been Grace's first attempt to do minutes. I probably printed off the wrong ones.
Okay, and then there are the motion and the vote taken listed in there also.
So long as it's recorded, it's such.
Any other corrections or notations? So then I guess it would be,
Just a point for you to consider in the future. Our minutes have turned into a transcript. And when you turn it into a transcript and you try to quote everything that everybody said and determine what the inference was and all that kind of thing, down the years, minutes comes from the word Greek, which is minute. It should be general. In fact, you brought that to our attention when we were talking about minutes of one of our executive sessions. They ought to be general. They ought to record the action that is taken, and that's it, with a notation at the bottom that says that transcript or whatever we call this is available in the office if anybody needs, further detail, et cetera, et cetera. With your minutes, just record the action that is taken, nothing more. We've gotten to the point where we have done, Brenda, how many hours have you spent sometimes? I know my first meeting back that I came about a year ago, we had like 29 pages of minutes. It's transcript, and it leaves us in a position where whoever is writing the minutes, and this is not a reflection of you, it would be whether it was me, Bob, or whether it was you. There is the opportunity, unless you're just taking the minutes of the action, there's the opportunity to leave some things out or to embellish it a little bit. That's just human nature. Guys, this is a business meeting and it needs to be conducted like a business, and your minutes should be minute. It ought to cover the action that is taken, and that's it.
Point well taken.
Okay?
yeah, I agree. I know the intent was through the solar board process that we wanted to duly note the amount of input from the public. We wanted to make sure that that was recognized within the minutes. And yes, it did get quite lengthy. But yes, in general, you don't want to get too elaborate. State the facts, motion, and then from there.
That's it, the motion.
But yes,
Mr.
yes,
President,
sir.
I would have totally agreed with Mr. Bothwell, except for when there is a motion. That needs to be clearly stated in there because we are voting on something.
Yep.
And so that's the reason I was,
And the
yes,
second.
that's the reason I was bringing that up, because there was a motion made and then it was amended.
Yeah.
And I think that needed to be pointed out in the minutes.
Yeah, it would.
Well, I didn't see that mine. I got the bad part. You know what I'm saying? That's the reason I was questioning.
But it isn't because it got lost. And all the.
Yeah. And there's always a video.
All right. So with those comments, they are recorded in official minutes. Is there any other issues with the minutes as presented, the official documents? So there's going to be no amendments to it because it is in the. Okay, so did we actually have a motion?
No.
So we do have a motion to approve the minutes for. This would be November the 7th.
So moved.
First, a second. First and second right here. We'll call the roll.
Atkins,
Too confusing for me on this.
Boswell,
No.
Royals,
Yes.
Otto,
Yes.
House,
Yes.
Wiley,
Abstain.
Hicks,
Yes.
Hunt,
I wasn't that one either.
Knuckles,
Who's on first? Yes.
Todd,
Yes.
Wright,
Yes.
Maynard.
Yeah.
We had 8, yes.
Okay. Now we are on to, since December 5th, which we did not have an official public meeting, so we just have a minute, just showing that we had a meeting, the executive session, and it should just properly state that we had an executive session and no decisions were made. I'm trying to find the email that had that. That was handed out at the beginning of the meeting. I think it stated pretty well what we did or didn't do at that meeting.
There you go.
Is that it? There it is. Call to order. Litigation, potential litigation was not discussed. Foremost review, collect the data as far as review, respondents were present. Is that it? Then adjournment. So we really do make those. All right. So we just need a motion to approve the executive meeting minutes from.
Make the motion to approve the executive meeting minutes from December 5th.
Robert makes a motion. We have a second.
I second.
Oswald second. Call the roll.
Atkins,
Yes.
Boswell,
Yes.
Royals, Otto,
Yes.
House,
Yes.
Wiley,
Abstain.
Hicks,
Yes.
Hunt,
I wasn't at that one either.
Knuckles,
Yes.
Todd,
Yes.
Wright,
Yes.
Maynard.
Yeah.
I believe that's all the minutes and everything's caught up to date on minutes. Okay, now we're going to move on to public hearing. We have a public hearing set for docket number 01Z-23. Gavin Rumpel asking for rezoning from AG to BG. A written agreement. Could you explain that to us, Brian, a little bit, what we're trying to do here?
Yes, if you'll remember. What Ms. Rumpel is wanting to do is she wants to open a country market, where she actually has a country market open at the corner of 500 East and Wheel and Pike. Right now, she is allowed to do her market as long as everything that she does on property, she is allowed to sell on property by right. But she would like to actually bring in some other vendors to do some sales. So through the course of this process, we have been out there, we first were out there over a code enforcement case with the condition of the property. And Mrs. Rumpel has, with working with Nicole, has really got into that property and started cleaning the property out. For anyone who's been out there, before the two houses there, you could barely see them, and now she's got the one house clear, a parking lot out there. She has gardens out there. She's got, I can't remember what it's called there at the corner, your garden at the corner.
It's, the Lynch Country Market, but is that what you're asking?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we have had, about 3 miles down the road, we had a written agreement with the Nelsons. I'm sure we can all remember the Nelsons, and then following the Nelsons, we did a written agreement with the Dillons on the Dillon farms. Mrs. Rumpel is basically asking for that same agreement.
So this basically is not a zoning change, it's just a written agreement to allow it.
Yeah, this will actually change kind of the same thing. It will be a round,
So many,
we were going to zone an area of the property general business so that she can run her market and do antiques. It's got this has got everything that the Nelsons and the Dillons had on it also.
But it is a zoning change.
Yeah.
With an agreement that if someone else buys the property,
Right.
then it goes back
That's
from
zoning involved.
GB to
Just to refresh my memory, the reason we're doing them as written agreements and not with the BZA is because this doesn't fall within the category of what we can do this.
Yeah, a rezoning would have to go through the area planning commission, so it's not a special exception or a variance.
Right, but we can't do a special exception or variance on these, right?
Right.
Because it's not in the,
Ask a question about that. I'm with you, Rob. I think what you're really getting at is you don't like spot zoning.
right,
Is that what we're saying?
yeah.
Okay.
And
And we now have a conveyance. I think was suggested by our attorney that, and it was done for the first time with the Nelson property. Is that correct?
Right.
And, that seemed to resolve something that had been, there had been a conflict. I think the original conflict with the Nelson property is that some of our folks felt that that should go through the BZA rather than go through the area plan, et cetera, et cetera. That came down, well, it needs to be rezoned. That area where your business is now, that whole area there is zoned ag currently, is that correct?
Yeah.
That area, is no more ag than a man in the moon. That's a neighborhood.
No, I agree.
Okay, so why would we not, in fact, this may be an additional kind of consideration for us. Does that need to be rezoned to residential?
Well, we discussed following the Dillons that we have got probably 100 of these out there. And that we as a commission need to look at, are we going to chase all of these farms? Or are we going to work within our system so that it would work for things that they're wanting to do?
Should that neighborhood be rezoned from ag to residential? And if it were, does that change what we're doing here? If it were residential, could it then go through the BZA?
if it was just added into this list of
As an
special,
exception?
I think,
And we wouldn't have to be having contracts with.
I think if we just amended the list of special exemptions to include, we would be able to shuffle this over like the rest of everything. That'd be
Right, and
correct.
I think that was the intention, was to start taking some of these that end up in here all the time and start addressing some of those so that we're not in here.
Spot zoning.
Right.
That's what we're.
That's, yeah.
Because this is off subject, but we've got one today that's coming, same thing.
Yeah.
Right behind it.
We opened, in fact, I think I received an email from you. And I think your concern was that, hey, we've got a can of worms now.
Well, once you
It's all
open the
happening
box,
out
then you
here
can't
right now.
say
It's
what
all
we can
squeaking by.
You might,
Hey, we can do this.
but you say no to one person, they think this is take
We've
negative.
got a concern here. And in this particular instance, I think we would have a solution if the neighborhood were zoned the way it should have been done 60 years ago, quite frankly.
Right.
So I lived out there. I built a
Talking
couple of
about
houses
it's
out
ready
there.
to comprehensive.
If that were to be rezoned to what it should be, which is residential, then she can apply through the BCA for spatial exception. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, so why don't we work on that first? Let me ask the question for you. Your season, I guess, you are going to be seasonal, correct? And your winter time is your downtime?
The reason I am applying now is I have long-term goals. That was my parents' property that I acquired. And, from my, brother who let it go downhill. And I eventually would like to have a year-round little market.
Yeah.
And I do not want, I'm not planning on making instant changes, but I want to go through the right channels and do it properly to begin with.
That's what we were.
And so the reason I applied for this, yes, I, right now, sell vegetables that I grow and plants and things like that, but I would also like to have a little retail shop. And I am an artist, and I would like to be able to, do workshops to educate, or have a workshop on how to grow something, or come and paint, create things. So eventually I would like for it to be a year round.
Yeah, and that would be great, but we would have time without interfering with what he wants to do. If we were to rezone that neighborhood to residential and then use our normal channels, we wouldn't have to go through this.
But my other question would be, that takes care of her. And if we go a mile down the road, there's another farm that way and a
So
mile
then
over
we could
here.
be thinking about what we want to do. We'd have time. In this case,
Because we got
we
gear,
want to pull her up.
So,
we know there's another one.
so Bob,
We're
are
aware of
you
another stuff.
suggesting
Just kind of-
at this time that we go ahead and, do the agreement with her, but throw that up as a high priority to go look at that area? Because I would hate to.
I am suggesting, irregardless of what we do here,
That we look at
that
that area.
the ag designation is wrong and that neighborhood be rezoned to residential.
I have a question,
No matter what.
because my farm, I'm only wanting to designate 1 acre, the rest of it is, farm. So it still needs to be agriculture, I'm just doing
Have a
my
garden.
parents'
Well,
wanting.
I'm just talking about the neighborhood down on 500 East.
The strip of houses.
So,
Right now, it's ag.
Yeah, we got that whole section, including the row of homes, the next 2 fields, and then your big field, and then your big field across is all ag.
Yeah, so
That real
separate that neighborhood out.
And again,
That's the main thing I'm doing.
yeah, I agree with you, because we keep doing this.
Right.
That's why we initially moved that special exemption process to address these issues. That way we're not messing with the continuity of the zoning all the time, here, there, and everywhere. But this sounds like,
if you'll remember, we've been in here
yeah,
for zoning maps over manufactured homes,
right.
mobile home parks that have been wrong for 70 years.
But I agree entirely.
That's kind of what we got.
Regardless of what we do here with her today, we need to really address this now and take it one way or the other. In relation to her request, this is just real similar to the Nelson property.
Yeah, Nelson and Dillon's,
Right.
we used those 2 to basically write.
So we're looking at either favorable or unfavorable recommendation. Then I would make, sorry.
So is this considered a public hearing?
Yeah, that's what.
What we're doing right now?
Yes, it is
So then
published.
we have a public hearing and have pros and cons
Yep.
and discussion.
We got dog at red, you know, that whole thing.
So I will open the public hearing for this matter. This is doctored on the agenda here, which I think I read already, 01Z-23. Public hearing, you've already given us a background on it. Now we're asking for public comment. And since you are the owner, if you would just explain it officially, because we're in a public hearing setting now, what you plan to do and why you want to change.
How many minutes do we have?
Well, I'm not sure if there's me, so I technically we go 15 minutes, 15 minutes here, and then 20 on the rebuttal, and then 5 for a counter.
5.
Yeah,
So-
25.
But right now,
10 at the end.
yeah, so they balance out.
Yeah.
I don't anticipate that, but we'll see what happens. Okay, if you could just explain who you are and what you plan on doing with the property and why you need to rezone.
My name is Kathleen Ray Rumpel. That was my parents' property, and Kathleen and Richard both. And it's part of the Lloyd Lynch farm, who established the Lynch neighborhood, the row of houses on the on 500 in 1959 and 60. I inherited the entire farm, and I finally acquired my parents' place on the corner of 500 and Wheeling Pike. I am an avid master gardener and have been growing and selling vegetables I am a naturalist and I am also an artist and do a lot of workshops and teaching engagements like at the library and different places on art and education. I love my land and I would like to turn that corner into something that is a destination place to come and not just buy vegetables and plants, which I will continue to do. And I was explained that I could do that without any rezoning. I have future plans of wanting to do things to make it where I can have people come out and I can do a workshop on how to properly plant things or to teach them other things about growing things. I also would like to do and go into having a little retail shop just because I think that that's kind of fun, the places I have gone to, and it's something that I enjoy to do, and that would incorporate having other people's products. Far as I mentioned, he mentioned antiques. I love antiques. I love to make repurpose furniture and make garden art and things like that. And so I wanted to, before I even got that far, to get it to where I was legally in bounds and follow the rules. I follow my grandfather's footsteps. You always do. You don't do it and ask permission. You go through and get the right paperwork and everything. I would like to teach, have workshops to say how to, just painting workshops like I do at the library, or come out and come and cut flowers and learn how to make an arrangement and then allow other people to bring their crafts out, or say on a Saturday, bring their crafts out and to let them do their specialties. I am very big on shop local and small, and promote other artists. Like I have a friend that does watercolors, have them come out and so for me to legally do that, I would have to rezone. I can do my product, but I want to help other people, other artists and other gardeners or other products like that. I do not want it to be a metropolis. I'd like to keep it simple. And as long as I'm alive, it will never be made into a, I'm sorry, I just had surgery last week and I got chemo brain. What's it called? I don't want to make it a subdivision, row of houses. I want to keep my farm pure. I want to, I have a farmer that is doing a great job of doing it the way my grandfather would have wanted to do it with the rotation, and that's the way I want. But that little corner there, it would help me pay for the mortgage on it that I had to get. And it's not going to be a huge moneymaker. I don't expect to get rich off it, but that's one of my passions. With my health, I can't work anywhere. I am a cancer survivor and ongoing, and that is something that I will be able to do. And I love to do education and help people, and it's one of my passions. So that is my main thing, is I want to do it properly. I want to do it legally, and I just continually want to clean it up and expand. And I don't want to have to each step go through this again. I just want to get it to where I'm doing what I'm supposed to do.
Okay, thank you. Is there anybody else here in favor that would like to come and speak as in favor of this? Seeing none, is there anybody in opposition that would like to come up and speak in opposition?
I have some questions.
Well, then I guess this would be the time to come up. Just, I don't know if we got a sign in there, or just make sure that
There is.
there is, okay. Make sure you sign it before you leave, or
Yeah.
so you can the record.
Linda Morgan from Upland. Oh, what's the print? I didn't know. Okay. That's a very dangerous intersection there. And my question with that is the entrance far enough back from that intersection that people aren't going to be coming out and then onto Willing Pike? It seems like they're going to get to that intersection pretty quickly when they leave the property. So I didn't know if that had been checked into.
I know, I did read through the application. I know it did talk about conditions for parking. No parking allowed out on the main road or on the road. I don't know if it's specific, I don't remember specifically reading where the driveway entrance and exit would be, but I do know no parking out on Wheeling or 500. But as far as where the entrance and exit is, I do not know. But I would imagine they have to follow.
On 500.
It's located on 500 back away from the intersection. I can show you pictures. There's from the intersection.
Couldn't really tell.
There's the intersection with the driveway entry. You're at 100 yards.
And that driveway cut was already there when the houses were occupied, before it was overgrown and everything. So it's not changing anything.
Is that the, behind the house?
Yeah.
Or in front of it? It's behind the
Yeah.
house? Okay.
And we did have David White was out there. They had some rocks going around the turn. David White pulled those rocks out for
I
safety
saw
and
that.
actually put the signs up where the little signals around that turn.
I just wonder if something needs to be addressed with that to help. If it gets like it sounds like, as a destination, you know, we've all taken our kids out to the big pumpkin patches and all that, and it can get pretty crazy. And the other question I had, now, you indicated having things from other vendors. And that, now, will the other vendors be present, or you'll be, providing, yeah, I'll get consignment.
Probably a little bit of both if I get, when I get my, excuse me, my brother's house, you got that in refit. I'm gonna have retail shop there. So I would do consignment for some other products, but if I would have another artist or another gardener come out, they would be putting on programs while I was there. So,
But you wouldn't have like separate booths?
no, I do not want to bring
Regular
market or
farmers
anything
market.
like that, no. I just would like to have an opportunity for someone like myself to be able to come out and say, let's make this today and let's have a lavender day, and someone that actually can make lavender items and things like that, but it's definitely going to be small scale. And my parents' is actually front yard my plan on this summer is to completely level that area and make that a gravel parking lot. And definitely in and out, and the distance from Wheeling to the actual driveway is where my parents' driveway actually was. So we've never had a problem going in and out my entire life.
Yeah.
The problem is people running the stop line and everything else.
Yeah.
And growing up there, I understand the major problem. And I have, that the area was overgrown, that the area will be completely cleaned from the driveway on back so that it's easily seen. It's already cleaned from the driveway to Wheeling.
And you don't own on the other side of the road?
I don't own Botany Glen, but I own on my farm as well.
Okay. So if you had to, that could be spillover area.
Yeah, but I've got plenty of room on the
Yeah.
same
Yeah,
side.
This will be
This is only
limited.
specific on that property.
Well, I think this would be wonderful. I love places like that. Everybody does. And, I like the idea of encouraging other local artists to have their things. You know, we need something like that in the area. But like I said, my main concern is just that if it gets to be as big and as popular as I would like it to be, is just to make sure that it's gonna be safe there. I can see James Dean days and that.
Maybe that weekend could use that. All right, thank you. Anybody else in opposition? All right, so I think you have.
And I just want to make one comment.
Okay.
Is it Mrs. Morgan? Miss Morgan?
Yes.
I just wanted to add that I drove by the property, and Ryan can attest to the fact that that's the very first thing I called and asked him about is if we get a high traffic in that area. Because today there is a sign westbound on Wheeling that says dangerous intersection. It's not this commission's purview to ask for stop signs, but that would be the highway department. And should you see an increase in traffic there, Ms. Morgan, you would be perfectly within your rights to discuss that with the highway department, and perhaps that they could make that a four-way stop.
I would suggest that we ask
Well,
that to be done.
did you ask that already?
Have we talked
No,
with?
I haven't asked that today.
I agree with what.
The
Bob
last
was
thing
saying.
we went through.
Because
In fact, let's
I know
get through the
that
public
being a
hearing,
fireman-
have our discussion.
here on my picture.
So I think you basically answered the questions that she had.
Yeah.
So is there any other discussion needed?
I just have a comment. A lot of people may not know it, but this lady's quite the artist. And I believe in her and I believe she can do what she says she's gonna do. I just like to say that.
She's a fine artist.
Yes.
Well, I would like to officially close the public hearing then, and then we can open it up for discussion among ourselves. As far as pros, cons, or what we would like to discuss on that. So within your packet, there is an agreement. That would be, we're going to favorable, unfavorable, or no recommendations. And since this is out in the county, unincorporated, go to county commissioners for final approval. It basically kind of follows what we did with the other two properties, the things you can do and the things you can't do. I think it only runs as long as the current property owns it, what she sells, what she would sell. That does not go to heirs. It's just. Or was I reading that?
If she sells, it reverts back
It
to
sells, okay, but if it's handed down to the
Yes.
family. she can
spouse or
sell it.
spouse or descendant.
Okay, that's what I thought I remember reading that somewhere also in there. Does anybody have any issues with the agreement that's written up that would be voting on?
I got a question on agreement. When we did the Nelsons,
Yes.
we said certain things and it did not happen. My opinion. We said we didn't want no alcohol. We didn't want certain things out there. We didn't care
It's in there.
if a vendor went out there with the license, we didn't want it. And it was left out, we had to correct it. So I hope we look at this thoroughly before we agree on anything. That we don't have to come back and correct
One
it.
end of it.
Has that been requested then?
Yes.
Yep, right there, the fourth item, alcohol beverage sale, those are prohibited uses.
I would like to suggest that we add to the restrictions. Just a statement of no sales of controlled substances. Yeah, we're talking alcohol. This day and age, alcohol is minor as compared to a lot of other things around the market. And when this was put together, perhaps nobody was thinking about whether it's marijuana or it's meth or it's, yeah. I think this is simple.
They're gonna be on the shelf, is it?
I think
Lavender flavor?
when you have them out there.
I think you make a good point about not wanting that debit, that we already have state or laws or federal laws to cover that.
But let's
But
include that.
it doesn't need to be,
It is,
jams in, right?
it is
Yeah.
already illegal to sell illegal stuff.
Yeah.
I think it's in the agreement too, that it says, it prohibits the sale of alcohol, drugs, any illegal.
It doesn't say drugs.
I'm
Doesn't say.
I am completely good with adding controlled substances and everything. I'm completely
Yeah,
fine with that.
I'm sure you are. This is general, this isn't aimed at you at all. This is aimed at our form that we have and the restrictions that have been there. And controlled substances, if they were added, it'll take care of the whole thing. So I'm just saying that in the form, I would like to see controlled substances added to the restrictions. I see no reason that would be objection. I think we're all.
So we
So you're making a motion for the changes?
I don't see an objection, I just see it as unnecessary.
Me too. I think it is, because we had a problem earlier.
Yeah, that's why I brought up the alcohol. We thought we said it in our meeting, and the next thing we knew, it wasn't in the package she was given. And she thought she could bring Bad Dad in because they had the license.
Mhm.
And it caused friction, and we had to go back out, and she got mad at us, and we tried to tell her
Oh, I see your
nice.
point there, yeah.
I would,
So that's why we looked at
If
it.
I could point out, if you look at the agreement, primary use of real estate, number one, and the very last paragraph there says, owner agrees to adhere to and to comply with all federal, state, and local laws, rules and regulations as far as cultivating, sale of goods and everything, and products offered on the real estate. So-
Yeah,
Yeah, so that says,
it really
can't-
does cover it.
yeah,
You're looking at it.
this would double cover it, I guess. I'd make a motion that that be added to our form.
I'll second that. What's the trouble we had?
what wording do you want to add?
just to add that no, illegal substances.
That's all I'm saying.
So,
Control.
The line item within the prohibited uses.
Yeah, but what I'm asking, I'm asking you have to be added to the form for any future agreements that we have, and be added as one of the restrictions.
Yeah, because what's the trouble we had?
Modify this one and include it,
Getting
and then
somebody
go
mad, she
forward
thought
if we have to go through this
got an
process
agreement.
before we get
We
things changed.
said this, and it wasn't in there.
I'll make a recommendation. We offer a favorable recommendation, including the amendment that Mr. Bothwell has asked for.
So you made the motion, you didn't really make a motion, you made a recommendation. You're making a motion to approve it as with the adjustment.
I'm not ready for, we need to discuss. We can have some discussion.
I'll withdraw my motion that
Hold on to it.
Nobody wants to get home to see TCU play in the night. I'm sorry.
Season who?
So anyway, as I looked at this, and Mrs. Rumpel, I'm 100% behind what you would like to do. However, I think there are some concerns that we need to look at. Our makeup, our things that you brought before us, Ryan, and we need to be careful about this, I think, is that you have prejudiced us in advance with your enthusiasm for this project. And it would seem to me that when we're having a public hearing, that we should just get what the data is in neutral form. Okay, and just as for process for you down the road, need to be objective in what you send out to us so that we're not prejudiced with your recommendation ahead of the public hearing. Then after the public hearing, then I think it would also be appropriate for someone to ask your recommendation. At that time, I think we got the process wrong, and I think we've done this 2 or 3 different times. I'm thinking about the young man from, was it Point Hackman? Remember? Gentleman from Hackman came in, we had 4 public hearings on that evening, if you will recall. And as we went through our packet, you appropriately made no recommendation to us on 3 of them. I think you inappropriately made the recommendation in our packet at that time that you were against this being approved. I mean, it's in the packet where, 3 of them you made no recommendation, which I think is great. And you could be asked your opinion then at the end of that. But you preconditioned this body by making your recommendation before we ever hear the public hearing. Therefore, the people at the public hearing, when they come, we've already, in some instances, you've made up your mind, told us how you think we should vote. And that's not
Well,
fair.
I have to have you, no later than 5 days prior, a staff recommendation.
I'm just suggesting.
So I don't,
Well, staff recommendation is by ordinance.
It's required for you to do that.
Yeah,
yeah, our ordinance says 10 days, but state code says 5 days. So I have to give you,
a recommendation.
Okay, if that's the case,
Huh?
gentlemen, if that's the case, why do we only get one recommendation out of the four?
Doesn't matter.
Well,
Why
that's,
weren't the other
I,
three?
I wasn't around then. That's yesterday.
I understand that. I'm just saying, it's a process that needs to be cleaned up, our process here.
Okay, I'm not sure that I believe, A, that it has anything to do with this application. B, that the state law requires that he give his advance recommendation. So I personally, I think it's a moot point.
Either way,
Amen.
if it's required, which I think is silly, because I think that prejudices this group. And
Well, we're not so.
Go to this, yeah, go to the state legislature.
if that's the case.
I know what the law is probably saying, but I kind of
That's
agree
not
with
the
Bob,
intent.
because if you read other laws, it's out there by the state, it contradicts them. Because it says, just like Robert, he's on the council in Jonesboro. He's not supposed to influence me the way the council wants me to vote. Because if you read the IC code of Indiana, it says I was elected in my position for what they wanted me, and I listen to the people and make my, not somebody influence me.
I
And by
reckon
that,
this is not.
what you're saying, I
for
think
this
it's true.
hearing.
I understand what the state, it's counted down in this law they got out here. It says you're not supposed to influence me. In a way, by Ryan giving his, it's influence.
All right.
It's
We're getting off,
like a double-
we're getting off the matter at hand. So,
In this matter.
Yeah.
Still not through with that. There is a building, a second building right behind where,
My
where
parents'
your
house.
place is, your parents' house, yes. And it is very much,
in need.
it's, yeah,
I plan on.
it's what we would call, property that,
What was your comment, ma'am? Plan on taking it down? Was that what you said?
Yes, it's in bad shape. I just don't have immediate funds and,
Okay.
again, going through my health, I haven't gotten it done yet, but it will be torn down.
so is that something that should be part of our agreement too?
If the
And-
space between,
This is a dangerous and unsafe structure. That's that's what we would call it. And it is accessible, very easily accessible from the property that she's wanting to fix up. So should that not be part of our agreement that it will be torn down, and then whatever timeline we want to give or you want to agree with it or something, I think that ought to be there because it is unsafe. And if you're going to have events of children running around and I've got 5 kids and I stop in and I don't know where all 5 of them are and they could get hurt if they're back on that property. So I think that's a concern that maybe the agreement that we have with her should, the things that she is agreeing to do, you're going to clean it up further, even up where you are. And that all ought to be stated in the agreement, I think, so that we know that that property is going to come down.
How about it?
That's part of it. So that our enforcement person can go out and say, hey, we need to get started on this. Or you may want the county to have you do that. You enter into a contract with the county. Don't we do that
Hughes houses.
at this point in time? So maybe that ought to,
but generally case houses, we're not in the business of demolitions. It's usually the ones that are on our radar, which these are on our radar, but
Pretty much cleaning it
But
up.
it falls
Most
on
of
the
it-
radar
I
now.
think
Since she opened it up,
yeah, I know.
it's on our radar.
it's,
How
so
about
anyway,
having a,
I'm thinking that should be it.
how about having a separational fence until such time
I
as she's
agree.
able to take it
That
down?
was the next thing I know was going to bring up.
Because,
Yeah,
you know,
but-
she,
if she could take it down today, she would. Obviously, it may be a while before she can.
Yeah.
And so if you say, well, she's got to take it down, well, okay, when? That's the next thing that shows up in such a kind of a document. So that kind of makes no sense unless she can already knows when she can do it.
We don't.
Otherwise,
Just so it's not accessible to them.
putting some sort of a fence up that wouldn't let kids through maybe would be a possibility. Yeah, Lorraine.
The distance between the front of the property and where my parents' house on the back of the property is ample enough to be able to barricade. And I do plan on, once I get that cleaned up, and I do plan, the house is closed up and locked. I've had many vandals break everything in, but you cannot easily get into it.
Which would be another option. I would-
And, but I very easily could put a barricade, make sure. But again, these are long-term goals. I don't expect to have a lot of festivals with little kids right away. And right now, the focus is to keep them on the front of the property. But I plan on barricading it. And then because of the emotional ties to it, I haven't been able to, with the death of my parents, I haven't been able to even go through it myself. Just because of the drama that's incorporated, but it will be blocked off. I had already planned on that. I didn't know I needed to stipulate that in my paperwork.
I'm just suggesting for us, we make that a part of the agreement. Make it as convenient for her as possible. Everybody wants this thing to go. Nobody's against it at all. Okay, but we also are here, we're here for the safety of the community. This needs to be a part of the community, not just, hearsay.
And I don't know if this matters, but is that house within the property that's being considered for the
Yes.
zoning? Okay, so it does fall within the boundaries.
Yeah, but Ryan, in here, you indicated there had once been a case on the property. Is there currently an open case on it?
No, let's close it out since she's,
Okay, so if instead, I mean, I understand we all want to get it down, she wants to get it down too. Perhaps we should allow the area plan department to create an open case. And that way Nicole and Ryan would continue to monitor to see that it gets down over time.
My concern is that it's secured, it used storage, there's not much we can do by law.
Something about
It's
that.
secure.
Yeah, I mean, if it's secured and she's using it for storage, there's nothing we can do. No one's living in it, it doesn't need to be electric, anything else.
As long as it's not an unsafe structure.
Right.
That's what I'm saying, if it's secured and.
No cold, man. She's been there.
yeah.
Both been there, Bob. Yeah, I've seen it.
You guys know what's going on.
Yeah.
But I would like to see that incorporated into the agreement. I have no problem with being approved.
You're suggesting an area,
But I would
as
like
she
that
said.
to
The
be out.
property be secure, either privy scene of the house or fencing, one or the other, so they'll have access to the house, or we will go forward long term
But I just think that needs to be stated as part of a
promotion.
as part of it.
Any timeline, you want to add timeline to that as well, 6 months?
Well, that would be nice, but I don't want to put that burden on them.
Yeah.
If it may be for a purpose, I mean,
Yeah, she's gonna use it for storage.
right, as long as it's secure. Until, it's as long as it's secure.
I was thinking the fence.
All the
That's what I was talking about.
Or suitable
Put a
barricade.
timeline.
Barrier.
Okay.
All right, so do I need to make the motion incorporating all that, or does somebody want to try to make a motion incorporating the two items? If we're ready for our motion, are we any other discussion?
My concerns. I still made motion.
Okay, so the motion from Bob is a favorable recommendation to county council with adjustments to the agreement. One would be the prohibition
No controlled substance.
controlled substance to be sold, and to have proper barricading or structure,
Fence or barricade.
fence or barricade
To the north house.
is to the north house
And so it's not accessible from the,
So that could be fencing, barricades, which could be boarding it up. Or a lock structure, I would think,
and or removal.
and or removal within the plan.
Until it is removed. I think. was the
Well,
point.
if that's so.
Right, and put it together.
Yeah.
Okay, any other, so we already discussed, so everybody, anything else? So we have a motion from Bob, we need a second.
Second.
Steve, second, Mr. Wright. Yes, we're ready for a roll call.
Atkins,
Due to the business arrangement my family farm has with Blu-ray, I'm gonna abstain from any votes here.
Bothwell,
Yes.
Royals,
Yes.
Cottle,
Yes.
Cows,
Yes.
Riley,
Yes.
Hicks,
Yes.
Hunt,
Yes.
Knuckles,
Yes.
Todd,
Yes.
Wright,
Yes.
Maynard.
Yeah.
So the motion passed and it'll be sent to the county commissioners at their next meeting. There's the wrong one. There it is. Oh, geez, got too many old ones here. Okay, so that took care of that. Number 7 is the meeting schedule, which well, we didn't have a meeting in December to approve it, so I guess we need to do a motion to approve the schedule, which basically follows our past practices, the first Monday of the month at 7, unless it's on a holiday, and then it's pushed back a week, I believe, and then no meeting in July. Would that be the gist of it?
I wanted to make a note to ask if we know that we are going to get the budget generally the second week of June, due back by July 1st.
So we'd have to work on that. Oh, it needs to be done by July 1st.
Yeah,
So if we don't have a meeting in July. we have to-
Generally, I get it after our June meeting. It's due July 1st. I don't see you guys again till August.
Okay.
So if we're gonna do a budget meeting, probably somewhere mid to third week of June.
So we would have to call a special meeting to review budget. To review budget. That would probably be ideal because sometimes that can take up time, that's special meeting. And we don't really want to delay the other business. So anybody have a problem? I'm trying to find where it was printed. You basically follow the same form.
Mr. President.
Yes, sir.
On the dates,
Yes,
like, I know when we moved it to tonight,
yes,
the following Monday, which hit a Paramount Town Board meeting.
yeah.
Can we take a look at that? Randy, or Rex and I was kind of talking about that, it's because it's always been that way. But now we're running into a little bit of scheduling issues. And it seems like the first, or the second Monday of the month.
Yeah.
That's when we do it right.
Yes.
If it does fall on a holiday, I think it should be just the following day maybe or
Following
something.
Tuesday. I love that. The Tuesday, but are there any other county town council meetings that meet on Tuesdays? Which is does Thursday, you do Tuesday,
Okay.
but which ones?
Well, he just approved it to be the second Tuesday.
Which would be fine. Well, maybe, because if Monday's a holiday,
Most of the time it'll be fine.
it'd be the next day, which would be the day after a holiday.
Yeah, Tuesdays.
So, and that'd be the,
Could be the second,
but not very often.
but not very often.
Because the 4th of July, the things, and, well, we don't generally meet in July.
Going for a second Tuesday.
Just an idea. Like I say, I know
I like that.
I tell you, the town boards are so Thursday, Wednesday, and Tuesday, Monday, and I mean, when we sit back to do our rounds, like Matthews, you guys are gonna do on Tuesday, but you did meet the first Monday once a
We
month.
met the first Tuesday.
Or first, but Upland also meets the same, so I had to make either hit you and hit Upland next, or wait a whole month to come back to hit, I mean.
and it may be okay the way it is. I was taking a look at schedules and stuff like that.
And I might as well bring up something, we're talking about schedule. It won't hurt Kyle's schedule because I'm waiting I was waiting for Kyle's letter. He is stepping down because of conflict of interest on both boards. Because me and him kind of discussed it. I said, the county council has asked that when I first was gonna get on the agenda, but they said they don't give any money out in December. That's their month, and they got, and they said, well, you guys ever thought about getting another? So I kind of hinted to Kyle, who do you want to represent? And he said he would step down. He was going to step down.
Well,
So,
we don't have anything official yet.
no, he was going to write something up and,
Yeah, we can consider that. Sure. But as far as meeting schedules, I also agree that there may be occasionally some
More on that.
stepping on toes, but is it Matthews, you say that it's on Tuesday, second Tuesday?
But that wouldn't interfere with 4 times but not on the first.
Yeah, so I would agree that if, rather than rescheduling it for a week later on a Monday, we schedule for the next day on a Tuesday.
Anybody have any problems with that?
Ours are Wednesday, so I'm good.
I don't want to have no problem with that.
Okay, so the one that's printed is good, except for when we fall, holiday, falls on that first Monday to move it to the next day, Tuesday. Which should be
Could be the second Tuesday.
it could be the second, depending on how things fall.
Yeah, that's what we.
Yeah, so it'd be the next,
Like you
next day
said,
of the.
You
yeah,
they're all. That's
One more
what
scheduled
that's
meeting.
them coming overtime.
So I'd make the motion that we approve that schedule as amended.
Okay. Second by Robert. Third. Third. You want to vote or do we do it by acclamation? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right.
What about
Say
budget?
it. Say it, Pat.
What about budget?
Well, why don't we do that when we get closer?
Call for a special meeting.
We call for a special meeting, see how your days look and where the numbers are.
Okay.
And we can call a special meeting.
I mean, obviously, the discussion could begin in an earlier month
But have the wrap up
of the final. Yeah,
what we want to present or approval from us to present. We
exactly.
need to do mid-June.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's usually the Monday following first week of June. I get it, and then it's June 1st back.
So you need at least as much as you got last year,
Well,
more if you can get
we
it.
can talk.
Well, if we do what he said, we need to do away with the 40.
All right, so that's scheduled, just about, okay, budget, so what, the set a date? Text amendment to area-wide zoning ordinance. Do we want to deal with that tonight? You printed that
I
out?
will, I'll leave that up to you guys. None of that is dire need. That they're actually the grading permit restrictions along streams. That goes along with the pond regulations that I'm working with the Drainage Board and the Health Department with. We got looking at one and then introduced 2 others.
So there's, that's one of the questions I was gonna have. There is not currently a pond regulation.
Right, we're still working on it.
Okay.
So this is basically, tonight was to discuss and get you guys thinking about the ordinances so that we can get them to a public hearing at some point.
Okay. So this is more discussion. So the bed and breakfast and B&B, we need to clarify information within our ordinance.
Yeah, it's our ordinance and our land use tables,
They don't match up.
they don't match.
So we need to get consistency
Which,
there.
which that one, for me, I don't know about the rest of you, but having read it, I thought it was the most straightforward that state law has changed. We have not. And I believe that this was spelled out very well. And, you know, I personally think we could deal with that one quickly if others agree.
So we need to have a public hearing on that change?
Yes, yeah, because it's going to be a text amendment.
So then, okay, then.
My thought process is for my first quarter run around to all the other meetings. If I can get some amendments together, I can knock 2 birds out with one stone.
So do you need them all as a package or just, can we do individuals like you've done here?
Yeah, I'm just trying to put a bunch together so I don't have to go.
Well, I know what you're saying, 4 or 5 times. If he's got 3 or 4 items, just put it in one. I go for saying it. Instead of going back.
So I read the Airbnb one, so it seemed pretty straightforward. I agree. So make that into whatever you gotta do to make it to a public hearing, and maybe not do the public hearing yet. And let's look at what's the next one on the docket. Was,
And that's the grading permit.
I mean, I can briefly run through, grading permit. So anytime that they clear, when 1 acre or more of land is cleared, it requires a Rule 5, which is erosion control certificate through the USDA, soil and water.
Yeah.
So once they get that Rule 5 certification, it's supposed to come to us so that we come to us for a grading permit. And in our grading permit, it gives us things that are exempt from a grading permit. It gives us how they can come to us for a grading permit, but there's 0 guidelines. So it's thanks for your money, and I've got nothing to go look at now because we've got 0 guidelines in it. So that's where I was trying to end. And the other thing with it is there's 5 different parts to it located on this page, 2 pages, another page, and then another page. Our grading permit is located on 5 different pages.
they want to
So
consolidate.
this was just getting it all down to one, which falls into the next one, which is your restrictions along streams.
Well, wait a minute, before you move on to that one. Because, again, I think that this is, I read it as a case where we are just clarifying our zoning ordinance to match with what state law says.
Yes.
Okay, then with a couple questions, you had the rewrite in red
Mhm.
of basically all of it. And as part of that rewrite, you had item C, grading permit expiration, which I'm agreeable to the wording. My concern was when I turned the page, then I saw down at the bottom of the page, 153,482 grading permit expiration. So do we have duplication? Do we need to
Yeah,
eliminate?
that would be repealed. The bottom 3, yeah. The AB, because it is actually up in the proposal.
Okay, so
So your
the
grading,
grading permit exemptions would still be,
right, I still had those set apart.
but 153,482 would be repealed.
Right. It would be removed because it's at the end of
Okay,
up here.
and then I just wasn't clear on that. So, I mean, that one,
Oh, trust me, I did it a month ago. I
know.
was
but it
lost.
seems straightforward, but if you kind of, I don't know, if everyone's agreeable, is that good for a public hearing too?
I think so. Get it in the form you want it.
Jerry, Randy? Okay.
And we've also been working with, like, Jim can speak a little bit on it, the drainage board on some of the drainage issues, health department, as far as their setbacks from septics from the Leachfield fingers. We're trying to get one ordinance that is the same for all 3 of us. A great example is the next one, which is your restrictions along streams. The state says there can be no permanent structures within 75 foot of a regulated drain. Our ordinance says there can be no structures other than a fence that can be located within. So our ordinance, if you build a fence based off of our ordinance, and then the surveyor walks in and says, hey, that's tough, we're gonna have to knock that down. They can come back and say, well, your ordinance doesn't say it has to, but Jim can come back to the
Yeah,
state
the
code and
Indiana
say,
Drainage Code does.
Yeah.
The fence is at the liability owners. If it's put in our easement, we need to get through it.
so this puts our ordinance with his code, with the health department's requirements.
So again, that one is, again, just rewording to comply with the state and with the
Some
drainage.
heads up on the drainage board.
Yeah.
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 I guess, again, with the commission, I'm good for all 3 of those to be available for public hearing.
And you can still make changes.
Right.
That's the public hearing.
Right,
to
that's
make the
why
changes.
it's there.
But I have to introduce them to you and then you guys send them forward to
Yeah.
a public hearing.
Now, the 4th one, I'm gonna have to tell you, I honestly did a lot of reading and I'm still kind of confused. So
the fourth one is getting into the rules and procedures of the BZA and doing the rules and procedures with state code with local ordinance and trying to get all three the same. So the BZA will work on rules of procedure. And then what I've kind of went through is looked at the ordinance part of it. So you'll see like the very first one in our ordinance says all members must be residents of the county. But the code states that they must be residents of the jurisdiction or own property. The second line says the terms of members is 4 years or for all elected officials. Can't be elected on the BZA. So they did a copy and paste between APC and BZA.
Is it all?
So that's, I mean, that's the kind of stuff I'm just,
Cleaning up the language.
yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna make a recommendation
But that one, I mean,
that for the first three, bed and breakfast, grading permit, and restrictions along streams, recommendation, if we have a consensus, that those three be prepared for public hearings, where there can be further discussion, review amendments, but it's moved them along the process.
Yeah.
The fourth one, I know I want more time to digest it. It's pretty lengthy.
and the biggie on the BZA one, that we've been talking, I think, Ed's here. In our ordinance, it basically states that before any final BZA decision, all petitioners must request the participating community place their petition on the next available regular meeting agenda to be heard and provided the BZA with a recommendation signed by the executive. This is the recommendation only. The Board of Zoning will be the entity to approve or deny the petition. So our ordinance says that I have to go get a recommendation prior to presenting to the BZA.
From a town or.
Right.
But that conflicts with the state law.
As we talked earlier.
Hence, I recommend we all read that further, put it on the back burner after these first three. If that's agreeable, Rex, how do you feel about that?
I feel because I know what state law reason this and this kind of,
And it's gonna be a lengthy discussion.
yeah.
I don't know if we have a consensus or not. Do we take a vote or what?
Well, the first thing, but the first three items I think we're gonna move forward on. Any objection to that?
No.
So let's do that. I don't think we need a vote on that because we can't take official action. We get something official in front of us.
Right.
The other one, the next one, text amendments to UZA. We need to do more thought on that.
Yeah.
So I don't think we're ready to get that into the working form yet. There's a whole bunch there. That's as far as we want to go tonight?
How much fun can we have?
There's a whole, like I said, I tried to read through there and tried to piece it all together. Yeah, it's massively confusing to me too. It's the truth.
So we ready for 10, 11, 12?
I don't know, are we?
I am.
10. Easy.
Yeah, 10.
Yeah.
You talking about 10 o'clock or 11 o'clock today?
No, I'm talking about number 10.
I need to catch up with you here. Okay, there's that. What page number are you on?
The second page of the agenda.
And
Oh, second page.
mine was thrown out. We're at 10.
Yeah, we're at 10, correspondence of the business.
Oh, you mean moving on that way? I thought you meant within the.
No, I'm sorry. I should have clarified. My mistake.
Oh, I'm bored. There's the wrong one again. Docket 7, 8, budget 8. Okay, performance review. I know.
Rex said he.
I asked that to be taken out.
Okay, so we're not discussing that. Okay,
Because we're still waiting for stuff from kind of.
okay. Correspondence and other business. I have no correspondence sent directly to me. Is there any old business that you need to bring up? Might come to
Old
you.
business.
Other business, old business, nothing.
Nothing.
Anything out of the office correspondence? Or other business?
I got a whole director's report. What time you want to go?
Well,
Question I
I
got.
believe you sent that out. That is,
Yeah. everyone-
we do have a copy of that. Anybody? You've been,
Question
We can
I got
monitor the
about
game
the
on our phone.
I like to ask the office. I've been hearing rumors. I'd like to get it clarified. I heard we proved something on somebody's property for a driveway in the barn. And now she's been told to take the barn down and clean the driveway up.
Did she document that for you?
And I
That
hear
is-
rumors, she's looking at a lawyer to sue us.
She has some documentation. I mean,
That
They
is,
said Ryan proved it when I'm here. I'm just hearing rumors. I'm wanting.
that's
so
been
perhaps
addressed.
after the meeting, you need to sit down with Ryan, give him the details, the address and everything else.
It's been in the director's report for 4 or 5 months now.
Yeah.
So for any questions, I put updates to it. You've had 4 or 5 months. I'm open to any questions. Currently, right now, the update is, Jim been involved with it, Health Department's been involved with it, Scott Dean from DNR's been involved with it. We've all been out there. Right now, we're waiting on, unless, I don't know if you heard anything, we're waiting on what happened with the elevation survey. But I've been updating that each month in the director's report. If there's any questions, feel free to call.
all right. Now we're to public input. We'll take, short comments or whatever from anybody in the public that would like to address the board. Or the commission.
Good evening. I'm Ed Hartman. Most of you know me. I live in the Fairmount area. We do have a problem with tonight's meeting. Your election process has to be open to the public, and every vote has to be recorded as to who voted for whom. So the election of president and vice president, you can't go forward with that. You've got to do that again. That's state law.
If that's state law, I asked Ryan to look it up and say yes or no.
Oh, we can do some research. I know what our, rules and procedure, what you read is what I read, that, which in my opinion is not good. We should be able to say who we want.
Yeah.
I realize it's rules and procedures, and I don't know if that's something that was looked at when they were, Bob and his group, if they were looking at that and making a possible change. I don't know if that was in there, but our current rules and procedure is what he read.
I think we looked at it, I'm on that thing. I think we looked at it, but we didn't, just now it was brought to our attention. It's, we're not following state rules. We didn't know that.
So
Little
I
things we
would
changed,
recommend that we take that seriously under advisement,
yeah,
but
Well, I mean-
report back on it by next meeting.
yeah,
Because we don't have those laws in front
Right,
of us.
we have to have interpretation.
because they change constantly, the laws change constantly.
Seems like we should follow whatever the state law
Yeah.
requires us to do. I mean, that's kind of an over-here.
Because I'm
Yeah.
like Chuck, that's in our rules.
Right.
That's right.
And I don't particularly agree with it because I think,
Well, we just need to, I
right,
mean,
we need to find out what the real rule is.
yeah, does anyone have in front of them this
The
state?
IC code, yeah,
Yeah. So
I don't.
that's why I recommend that we take it under advisement till next meeting where we have a chance to review what the state law says.
Okay. Any other public input? Take that under advisement, we'll do some research and then get back.
I'm, the more I think about it, I believe code says no hidden ballots. Is that what you're? Yeah.
Also have to be recorded in the minutes who voted for what they voted. Totally open election.
I think that's why I said roll call.
And then you got reading in there and there's, once again, contradiction, what we just had on all these other things. Thorough review, rules and procedures, area plan, our procedures, comprehensive plan, all these things, area-wide zoning. Because it has not been looked at in a long, long time, and things change, so we need to get back good old way, to get back into compliance, for lack of better words. So we'll get some feedback. We need to resolve. Any other business? Motion to adjourn? Here. All right, all in favor?
If that's an issue. We can go ahead and just take care of that tonight then.
Just
Guess what?
revote.
The voting of the,
Do you have the IC code to confirm that?
no, but in.
I want to see the IC code.
Yeah,
We
I
just-
want to make sure we
We made
do
a
it right.
motion to adjourn.
If we're right, we can leave it the way it is. If we're not, then we can make the changes. And we need to make the changes in our rules and procedures.
You not only get on, think,
Well, we had a motion.
we had a motion, but no vote yet, right?
He didn't say it, and I said, yeah.
We have people walking out, so. Same.
All, can we do all in favor?
You need 7.
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Anybody opposed? Hearing none, all good.
Did not come off more